Russia's war against Ukraine will continue as long as Russian dictator and war criminal Vladimir Putin remains in power in the Russian Federation, or until the Ukrainian Defense Forces strike such blows against Russia that it will not be able to recover. This was stated in an interview with Glavred by diplomat, head of the Center for Russian Studies, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Volodymyr Ohryzko. According to Ohryzko, war is a continuous process of providing the front line with everything necessary, in particular ammunition, weapons, food, fuel, and oils. In order to paralyze a combat group at the front, it is necessary to deprive it of access to this supply. If the Ukrainian army interrupts the logistics chains, knocks out airfields located in the European part of Russia, from where attacks on civilian facilities are carried out, if it forces Russian aviation to redeploy beyond the Urals, when oil and gas facilities are destroyed, as well as enterprises that work for the Russian military-industrial complex, then, there will be nothing to fight with, he points out. He stresses that for Ukraine to succeed, it is not just a physical confrontation that is needed, but also a technological advantage that can be achieved by destroying the enemy's logistics, infrastructure, and supply system. In that case, he says, Putin will simply not have the resources to wage war. The diplomat stressed that this should be the main strategy, and the actions of the Ukrainian military last week demonstrate that they are already capable of acting in this format, even with limited resources. One has only to imagine what results can be achieved with proper support. That's why we're back to the main thing. We need a lot of modern weapons. This could break the back of the Russian military machine, he summed up. So, Russian troops in Ukraine are in a very difficult situation. Russian President Vladimir Putin's strategy is like putting his troops through a meat grinder. Putin has not changed his desire to occupy all of Ukraine, to capture Kiev and Odessa, but his army is practically paralyzed with huge losses.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Vienna, Austria Monday, his first time visiting the country since Russia's 2022 full-scale invasion of Ukraine. According to Associated Press, Zelensky was greeted by the Austrian President Alexander van der Bellen. Zelensky is also scheduled to meet the Austrian Chancellor Christian Stocker. Zelensky's wife, First Lady Alina Zelenska, and Doris Schmidauer, van der Bellen's spouse, will also host a discussion about the role of women in promoting peace during the trip. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Austria has remained neutral, a stance it declared in 1955 after World War II, and Vienna has come under heavy criticism for maintaining ties with Moscow. The visit came after Ukraine's Air Force said Russia fired 138 strike and decoy drones at Ukraine overnight, mainly at the eastern Donetsk region. Of those, 125 were either intercepted or jammed, while 10 reached their targets. 8 others caused damage as falling debris. The Austrian government has condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine but also stressed the need to maintain diplomatic relations with Moscow. Vienna has sent humanitarian aid to Ukraine but no weapons.
please, please.
U.S. President Donald Trump spoke to reporters outside of the White House on Sunday before departing for the G7 summit in Canada. According to Associated Press, Trump, asked what he's doing to de-escalate the fighting between Iran and Israel, said he hopes there's going to be a deal, but added, sometimes they have to fight it out. He also said the U.S. supports Israel's defense. The president said thinks we'll have a few new trade deals at the G7. And he said protesters would rip apart Los Angeles's if he didn't send the National Guard. They come and they check, is the National Guard going to be there? And if the National Guard is there, they don't even show up, he said.
So we're going to Canada. Last night was a tremendous success with a fantastic audience. It was supposed to rain. They gave it a 100% chance of rain, and it didn't rain at all. It was beautiful. And so I asked if they gave it 100% chance, right? 100% it was going to rain like crazy, and it didn't rain at all. How did they predict 100 years out and 50 years out or 200 years out? They didn't do too well, the weather people, last night, but it was beautiful.
President, are you and Prime Minister Netanyahu on the same page concerning how to deal with Iran?
Well, we get along very well, and I will tell you that I think we have great respect for each other.
Can you give us a leader for solution?
Go ahead, what?
Mr. President, can you give us a sense of what you're doing to try to de-escalate the situation between Iran and Israel?
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens, but sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal. What? So the protesters, if we didn't have the National Guard on call and ready, they would rip Los Angeles apart. They come and they check and they say, is the National Guard going to be there? And if the National Guard's being there, they don't even show up.
Have you asked Israel to pause their airstrikes into Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that.
Mr. President, do you expect to have some trade deals announced at the G7 summit coming up?
Look, we have our trade deals. All we have to do is send a letter. This is what you're going to have to pay. But I think we'll have a few new trade deals, yeah.
Will the U.S. continue to support the defense of Israel? Will the U.S. continue to support Israel in its defense?
We do, yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.